Welcome everyone to the Krystal Archive podcast episode number 16. And welcome back. I'm Dwight House, your host for the Krystal Archive podcast episode number 16, recorded on January 26, 2008. I wanted to start off by saying that Foxbird was unable to make it this episode. He's just far too busy, so here's to hoping he can make it next time. There is a lot to cover this episode, so I'm going to jump right in to the news that happened since last time. Alesia Glidewell has been kind enough to allow me to interview her both via email and in person coming soon, and I've finally been able to post since last time the third and fourth segments of the interview I've done with her over email. And so I'm going to read the questions for the third and fourth parts and give her answers for each of those questions. How did you first come to be involved with voice acting for Star Fox Assault? Her reply was, my agent submitted my voiceover demo and then I went to an audition and that was that. Unless you're big time, you usually have to go to auditions and go to callbacks like everyone else. My next question. What kind of reference material did you use when deciding what voice to use for Krystal? For instance, did you play Star Fox Adventures before doing voice work for Star Fox Assault? Her reply was, I wish I had. However, things usually happen really fast and you don't get much prep time. Basically, the director just explained to me what they wanted her to sound like. I gave them some options, and they chose what they liked best. My next question was, what was the process like voicing Krystal for Star Fox Assault? Anything special when working with Nintendo and Namco? Her reply was, nothing too out of the ordinary. I'm usually off in a booth, and the director, audio engineer, and sometimes a translator are all sitting behind a glass window. With Star Fox Assault, I got to watch some clips from the game, and the really funny part was watching the director get up, do some funny motions, and then say, make a sound to go with that. It was a fun challenge to make up different sounds to go with the various motions, and sometimes it wasn't even the real sound of the motion that they wanted, but a huff or a grunt or a sigh type sound that might seem appropriate at that moment of the game. My next questions were more Krystal related. How do you feel about Krystal as a character? She replied, I love the character. She's tough and sexy and a survivor who doesn't waste any time feeling sorry for herself. I feel guilty saying this, but I've actually only played part of the game once, and I had a really hard time listening to Krystal without getting super critical of my reads. It was definitely a great game though. My father loved it. My next question was, what is your reaction to the size of the Krystal fan community? She replied, totally shocked, but in a good way. My next question was, if there was one thing you'd change about Krystal, what would it be? Her reply was, there would be more of her. Maybe her own game, a TV series, you know, the works. My next question was, what's next for you? She responded, so far I've been lucky that great companies like Nintendo, Valve, and Monolith chose to cast locally for certain projects, but the majority of projects are still only casting out of LA and New York, so I'm planning to relocate to LA later next year. I would love to continue the voice work and motion capture stuff, both here and in LA, so we'll see how it goes. I'm also planning to have my website redone, mix a new demo, and work on more character voices and accents to pull out at auditions. So those were the extent of the questions I asked Alesia Glidewell. I have more than twice that many questions prepared for her as potential questions for the in-person interview I'll be conducting later on this year. More about that shortly. So now I'm going to continue going through the news since last time. Okay, the next thing that happened was that the official Brawl website, the dojo, shut down for a week. They decided they wanted to go on a break for the new year. The next thing that happened was that I announced that I had contacted Estelle Ellis, the voice actress for Krystal in Star Fox Adventures, and she had agreed to an interview. Now, after having contacted successfully Alesia Glidewell, I decided to try once more to find Estelle Ellis on the internet, which is no easy task. I tried a few methods this time, and lo and behold, one method worked. I was able to contact her and asked her for an interview, and she accepted. Unfortunately, she lives in Europe, so I'll be doing the interview via Skype. The next thing that happened was that we celebrated the birth of a new year, 2008. Shortly after that, on January 8th, the Krystal Archive celebrated its 2-year anniversary online. I finally posted an article from Gamer, a European magazine that talked about Krystal as a possible player in Brawl, though they in fact hate her. The magazine people, the people writing the article, hated Krystal in such terrible ways because they didn't view her as a worthy character. Anyway, that was at least some publicity, if not good publicity, for Krystal. The next thing that happened was that the dojo began posting some really interesting updates. They posted a new character, Captain Olimar. They posted that Sheik will be making a return through a transformation from Zelda. And finally, they posted that the stickers in fact did do something. They had a use in adventure mode. They allow you to soup up your character by placing the stickers on the bottom of trophies. And in adventure mode, you can use those powers of the stickers to increase your stamina, your ability to knock people further, and so on. So that was really interesting. And so since then, the dojo has been posting more interesting updates. The next thing that happened was that I delayed the podcast. I said I would be delaying it until February when Super Smash Bros. Brawl was released. Well, unfortunately, Brawl got delayed, so I decided I'd go ahead and release this episode, just one more before Brawl came out. The next thing was that I put out a call to all of you to send me your questions for Estelle Ellis and Alesia Glidewell for potential interview questions. You sent me a lot of questions, and I spent a good portion of yesterday evening going through them, organizing them, editing them, cleaning them up, and getting them ready to send to Estelle Ellis and Alesia Glidewell, which I did last night, late at night. I sent the final list of potential questions for their review. They'll get back to me shortly and tell me which questions I can use in the interview and which ones I can't, so we'll have no problems with that when we get to the actual live interview. I'm going to be keeping the questions I sent them a secret until the actual interview, so you're going to just have to tune in and find out what I did ask them. So that brings us to our next thing. Brawl was delayed, unfortunately, a week in Japan and a month in America, and other countries around the world, they don't even have an actual release date yet, so their delay may be even more significant. Anyway, Brawl is coming out in Japan on January 31st, 2008, just a few days from now. Meanwhile, in America, our game won't be coming out until March 9th, 2008. So we have quite a long wait to go, another month. Since Alesia Glidewell's interview is time sensitive, I sent an email to her about the delay, and she checked and got back to me and said that yes, I will have to delay the interview with Alesia Glidewell until sometime in March, after the American release date. The next thing that happened was that Krystal made her first public appearance in Brawl as a sticker, using an image from Assault, with Krystal sitting in her chair looking at the camera. Krystal is now, without a doubt, in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. There's no denying it now. The question now is and remains, how much of an impact? Will she be playable, or will she just be a non-playable character? We know she has a voice because Alesia Glidewell is hers. The final thing that I posted just yesterday was an image, a faked, photoshopped image of the character selection screen with supposedly all the characters unlocked. Now, this screen is no more better than any other photoshopped fake screen I've seen before. The problem is that it was used officially in a Game Trailers. I shouldn't say officially. Game Trailers is a website that does video game videos, and this came from them, so it's perhaps a bad move for them to be posting fake images in their videos, which a lot of people think are official. But the fact is that they used an image that was clearly photoshopped, faked, and had many problems with it, and additionally, they had a giant question mark over it, but people seemed to overlook this fact and instead jumped to the conclusion that that was the final roster for the game. This is the reason why I don't cover rumors on the site. But a lot of you came to me telling me about it, and I thank you for bringing it to my attention. So I posted to the archive telling you that this was not a real image. Don't be fooled. It breaks the first rule of determining a fake video game image from a real one. It uses images from previous games. It uses character art and images. And in this case, it uses at the very least Krystal, Captain Falcon, Black Shadow, Wolf, and Ness as images from previous games. So don't be fooled. And that brings us to other rumors. Rumors I didn't discuss on the site because, as I said last time, I'm going to only be really talking about rumors on the podcast. So the big deal right now is that the people who supposedly have insider information, have been saying that they have the final roster and that Krystal is an assist trophy and that Wolf is a playable character, even though Wolf had far fewer requests than Krystal. And additionally, Krystal was originally the Prophet's, character. The Prophets, the people who were saying all these things, the people who had insider information, they said that Krystal was a playable character. And now they're changing their minds and going back to Wolf as a playable character and Krystal as an assist trophy. And the fact is that no one really knows anything, and the people who do are either not talking, or there's no way to tell the difference between the people who really know something and the people who don't, who are talking about it, of course. So, long story short, don't believe the rumors. Wait, 4 more days, and we'll get to find out exactly how many characters there are. So that's all I have for that. Moving on to Star Fox general news from Star Fox Online, I posted a video last month of a documentary about the origin and use of the technology used in the first Star Fox game, the Super FX graphics chip. The video also shows some cool effects used in the 1993 Consumer Electronics Show, where they had wireframe images of R-Wings flying around a domed ceiling, and they were flying around using a laser light show. So they used a laser to project images of R-Wings flying around inside the cockpit, fighting, shooting, and blowing up, and all this other cool stuff. It was really clever what they did. So check that video out. It's on the second or third page of the StarFoxOnline.net website. The next thing was that a lot of people have begun selling their Star Fox memorabilia online, on eBay specifically. There was a press promo kit, the Assault and Pepper shakers, that came with Star Fox Assault as a promo kit. There was a Star Fox Super Weekend prized leather jacket up for sale, and not one but 2 Star Fox Super Weekend Super NES cartridges for sale. A lot of these things went for pretty high prices. The Star Fox Super Weekend cartridges both went for around $200, and there's no stopping them there. There might be more auctions coming up soon, so if I find out about any, I'll be posting them on Star Fox Online. On the dojo, the Melee Corneria stage was confirmed to make a reappearance in Brawl. Fox McCloud was featured in Famitsu magazine, where it detailed his main moves. People playing the Brawl demos at the World Hobby Fair described Fox's victory pose as he puts his hand on his hip, facing sideways, and says something which was unable to be heard. I'm gonna guess and say it was something like "Mission complete." And finally, the good folks at BrawlCentral.com have been posting character stats, like how heavy a character is, how many jumps they have, and they've posted this stuff about Fox McCloud. He has 2 jumps. He can wall hop. He cannot wall cling, which I believe is where you can slide down a wall and jump off of it at any time. He cannot glide. He cannot crawl. His weight class is light, and his speed class is fast. So that covers the news since last time. And now I'm going to go into the things that are coming soon. First and foremost, I believe I'll be taking down the Krystal Archive shout box. it's really no longer needed now that anyone can comment on every article, and my email is readily available if you need to contact me. The shoutbox has never been a good way to contact me because I only check it maybe once every 2 months. So that's coming down. As soon as I get around to it, I'll be taking it down, and it was fun, but no longer needed. Continuing from last time, I had a bunch of discussions with Foxbird22 about what sort of things that might be the best things to change about the Krystal Archive. And I'm going to go through them, not in order, but I'm going to go through them and tell you progress on those fronts. So first of all, as far as fan art goes, it's still coming along. I have a huge backlog right now. I managed to get one fan art update done in the last month, and I've got another one for the last 2 or 3 weeks that I haven't done yet. There's something like 2,000 fan arts to go through again, and that's going to take me the better part of half a day to go through. I need to develop an application to help me go through that many fan arts. So I'll be trying to get that up soon. The fan fiction section update is on hold for now. Foxbird himself is pretty busy and can't give me any feedback right now, and I'm certainly not in a position to go about redesigning something that complex right now. I mean, it's really not that big a deal, but I'll need to go through several iterations, and the very fact that I had to set up a fake server and run the Krystal Archive locally just to test it out, it's going to take a bit of time. So for now, that's on hold. It's not really a high priority. Guest interviews are coming along great. I mean, after all, managed to contact Estelle Ellis, and so she's on board. We'll have a new interview from her soon. And then, of course, Alesia Glidewell is coming on, and I think after the end of this podcast, I'll go about looking for the next person to interview. I have someone in mind. I haven't yet looked into the donation button thing. I should do that. In regards to podcast length, I hope this podcast is longer. I can't tell because it's not over yet. But I will say that it is harder to do a longer podcast when it's just you involved. It's just me talking into this microphone looking at a screen. It's hard to do a longer podcast. So I hope I can, but no guarantees. We'll see by the end of the podcast, won't we? Rumors have been discussed on the podcast, which was earlier, and nowhere else. So that front, good deal. We're on track for that. And finally, the listener call-ins are here. One person managed to call me and sent me an email containing a voice clip of themselves, saying something as I gave opportunity to do so. And so we're going to play it in just a moment, but before we do, I just wanted to reiterate that if you want to say something on the Krystal Archive podcast, as long as it's appropriate, I will put it up. Just send it in via email or post it on your web server if you have one, if it's too long. But usually if you compress it into MP3, you can easily send it via email. As long as it's under 10 megabytes, just record yourself and make sure you speak well and clearly into the microphone, and send it on to me, and I'll post it in the next episode. So here's our first. This one is from Brian.
This is about Krystal being in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. You've seen in Super Smash Bros. Melee that mostly everybody had a clone. So in Super Smash Bros. Brawl for Fox, I think Krystal will be his clone. Everybody had a clone in Melee, and I think because the polls for her being in Brawl are so high that she'll most likely end up being the clone for Fox. If not, probably Wolf, because he's probably the second highest. That's just my opinion, but I really think this is going to happen.
Thanks for your message, Brian. I have to disagree with you, though, on the clone idea, because one of the very first things they said when the people who were working on Brawl were deciding what characters to use, they said that they wanted to try and reduce the number of clones and reduce the number of Japanese-only characters. Those were the two main things that they talked about. So, I think Krystal will be in the game, but I don't think it's because there needs to be a clone, because that's something that they were actively trying to reduce. So I don't think that's really an option. But nevertheless, Krystal is in the game, and hopefully as a playable character. We'll see. So now we're going to move on to the listener emails. Chris writes, I am from Leicestershire, England, and I am a keen Star Fox fan. One day I was surfing the web looking at random Star Fox websites when I found the Krystal Archive site, which brings me to my question now. I have listened to a couple of your podcasts, and I have noticed that the word furry comes up a lot. I was wondering if you could tell me what the word furry actually means, because I'm pretty sure that it doesn't mean the same as in a furry cat. Yours sincerely, Chris. P.S. I think everyone's favorite blue vixen sounds better than everyone's favorite blue fox, but that's just me. My response: furry, in this case, refers to a group of people. These people have a specific interest in anthropomorphic characters like Fox or Krystal, humanized animals. This interest goes from mild, like mine, where I simply am interested in anthropomorphic characters, up through people who dress up as anthros, and even people who may think that animals are trapped inside them, or that they are animals trapped in human bodies. But they are the most extreme and rare. For more information on what furry fandom is, check out Wikipedia, search term furry fandom. The word furry is also sometimes used to refer to the anthropomorphic characters themselves, making Fox and Krystal furries, but this term usage is less common. In regards to everyone's favorite blue vixen versus everyone's favorite blue fox, originally the Krystal Archive used the fox notation, and then I later, when we reached version 3, switched it to vixen. I changed it back for personal reasons, which I'd rather not go into, but for now, that's the way it's going to stay. I agree with you. I like everyone's favorite blue vixen more, but for right now, I can't change it back. The next question comes from Josh, who writes, I was on the game FAQ board about Super Smash Bros. Brawl and came across one post about Chaotic Implosion's leak on some info in Brawl. He appears to be pretty convincing, but he says that Krystal will not be playable. Instead, she will be an assist trophy, and that's when my heart dropped. But I was wondering if you could take a look at the post and tell me what you think. Thanks, Josh. Well, I did look at those posts, and I came to the conclusion that, like all things before it, it's simply a rumor. He did go to a lot of trouble to make that post, and especially if it's something fake. But if that's the case, either way, nothing can be verified. Nothing was proven. Until some hard facts come in, I'm going to disregard this information. It's not proven. Tyrannus36 originally wrote to Foxbird22. He said, I'm sure you and Dwight have seen me over at DeviantArt. Anyways, I have a little random question for you guys. If a story, movie, and or a game were announced that involved Krystal as a major character, but didn't revolve around the Star Fox series, how would you respond? My response, and I don't know what Foxbird22 said about this, but my response was that I would be really excited. I'd be excited about the possibility of Krystal appearing in some new professional mass media work, especially if she's a playable character in a game. I'd love that. I would really love it if they didn't change her appearance too much, or, for that matter, her character. I mean, not just the way she looks, but the way she acts. I hope they keep her, the way she acts, the same, because I think she's as good as she can be pretty much right now. I'd post about it, of course, on the Krystal Archive, and hopefully it would be super awesome. Our good friend Mr. A. Munster writes once more, when will you continue your fanfic? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Also, greetings for 2 years on the Krystal Archive. I'm sorry, Mr. A. Munster, it's taking so long. I actually did work on the fanfic over the break, but somehow I managed to delete everything I had added, so I'm going to have to start over from the beginning of that chapter. And no telling when I'll get around to it, but I promise I will continue to work on it. My school schedule is a lot nicer this year, so let's keep our hopes up, cross our fingers, and maybe I'll get it done. And the final question was sent in by Chris, who wrote, in Star Fox Adventures, you know the 8 cheat tokens that the 8 wells around the dinosaur planet give you after you have paid so many scarabs? 4 of them tell you random information, and the other 4 activate cheats. My question is, what do the cheats actually do, and how do they affect the game? I responded that one allows you to play the game in a sepia tone, which is kind of like black and white, but instead of going straight from black to white. It goes from black to brownish to white. So it gives it a rustic look. One allows you to play the credits at any time. One gives you the sound test mode. And the final one gives you the ability to show subtitles in Saurian. So you can read all the text in the game in Saurian. They won't change what people say in the game, but it'll change what's displayed underneath the game cutscenes. So that's all I have as far as questions, and that's all I have as far as news and information. Wow, it looks like this podcast is going to be a lot shorter, because right now, as I record this, it's looking to be around 40 minutes long, and I haven't even edited it yet, and there's a lot of stuff for me to cut out. I made so many mistakes recording this. So, I'm sorry, but hopefully next month we're going to have a ton of news, because Brawl will have come out. We'll have all that information for there, both for Krystal and for Star Fox. And maybe I might even have Estelle Ellis' interview done by then. Who knows? So, looking forward to next time. Wait for Brawl, check the site. I'll post anything I know as soon as I can. And talk to you guys later. This has been the Krystal Archive Podcast, episode number 16.